don't. I really don't. All right, this is that moment of truth where we wait for the internet to say that we're alive. We're like, come on, internet, validate us, validate us. You know, I need your validation for another day, and I don't until I see it. It's not here. I am there. I have seen it. I have seen it, and it is good. Let me make sure that the settings are right here real quick. Okay, I'm just making sure I did it. It's been a weird morning for me. I've been kind of I've been a little slow on the upbeat this morning because I don't know why. I guess maybe it's Monday. I don't know. I don't know why that is. But anyway, what's up, everybody? Good afternoon, good evening, good morning if you're in my time zone. You still waking up? You still having that coffee? I got mine. I got my Ramones mug. Sipping my coffee. You know how it goes. Or if you're coming at us from the future, how's it going? Are you in Australia? It's the future where you're at. How's everything going? Did we make it another day? I hope so. Shout out to everyone who makes this show possible. Our friends over at ZT.com, CHITEA.com. Their tea, it kind of rules. Their tea is great. And you can get their tea wholesale right now because of the pandemic. I highly recommend the white peach, the China white peach tea. I've been obsessed with that. It's amazing. So get some of their tea. It's a tea shop, an independent tea shop run by a friend of the show, Jeffrey. And they supply the tea to Get Your News On with Ron. And that's important these days. I like my tea an awful lot. So triageoil.com, TRIAGE oil.com. They make pain oil. Trendy Nay, he has a show about cannabis, and he makes pain oil that you rub on your body, and it works wonders. You guys know it has done wonders for my neck. I was in a car accident in 2013. My neck has never been the same. This pain oil has done more for it than anything else ever has. I'm 100% serious. Nay turned me on to the product by sending it to me, and I started using it, and I have been a loyal user of his pain oil ever since, and I just got a recent shipment and care package from him, so thank you for that, Nay, and check it out, triageoil.com, TRIAGE oil.com. All right, without further ado, my guest today, I'm so excited to talk to you. You guys know this guy. He's been on the show before. I think this is either his second time or third time, but either way, stoked to have him back. He is a singer-songwriter, and he's got a new album out called Say Their Names. We're going to be talking about the album a lot. This is one of my favorite singer-songwriters out there. I've actually been listening to a lot of his catalog as kind of a theme song for the moment, if you will. He has gotten endorsements from everyone from Pete Seeger to Amy Goodman. Please welcome back to the show, Mr. David Rovics. What's up, David?
Thank you.
You good?
I was just muted somehow. I just jogged the mic cable. It's live.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah, great to see you, Ron.
Good to see you again, man. So the new album, which we're going to be talking about later, Say Their Names. I have been listening to it some. I listened to it this morning. We're going to talk about it in depthly throughout the course of the hour. But first, I wanted to start elsewhere. You are in Portland, Oregon, which has had a lot of happenings going on as of recently. And one of the things that you are involved with is a rent strike, or you're at least a friend to the rent strike. So what's been going on there?
Yeah, we're also on rent strike, although it's very much a I'd say during the time that there's a moratorium on evictions and eviction proceedings and everything else related to evictions, basically, which there is currently here in Oregon till the end of the year. Sort of a slightly better version of the CDC moratorium that applies to the whole country, and basically. So if you don't pay the rent, you don't face eviction, but you do face the possibility of, what you're going to owe when the moratorium is over. So there's currently, I think, last I heard, Portland is $125 million behind on rent, and nationally, the whole country as a nation is $21 billion behind on rent. But that's so there's a lot of organizing going on around what's going to happen when the wave of evictions actually starts. There's other organizing going on around a lot of things, and in terms
Sure.
of around rent issues and lots of other issues. But the big wave, the tsunami, as they're often calling it in the business press, that they're expecting is probably not going to hit here until summer 2021 if laws don't change again. I mean, they can keep on extending the eviction moratorium, which means then extending how long people have to start paying back the rent, because there's a 6-month little gap there between when you have to start paying the rent again and when the eviction moratorium ends and when you actually have to pay the whole of the amount that you owe.
We have a similar thing here in California, but so as far as organizing goes, what kind of actions are you seeing on the ground? Because I mean, it's an inevitability, probably. I mean, hopefully not, but it's looking more and more like there's the inevitability that millions are going to lose their homes, millions of people. No one's talking about this. I have sat through all the debates so that no one else has to, because I live tweet it, which keeps me sane through the process. This topic has not been brought up once. It has not been brought up at all. And it is a housing crisis. So what type of direct actions have you been privy to?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned it's not been brought up, because that's true in the debates and it's true in so much of the media. But I learned a very long time ago from Noam Chomsky that if you want to know what's happening in a society, make sure to read the business press, because the business press is talking about things that are relevant for investors, and they can't just give you propaganda. They have to tell you some information that's going to be useful for the capitalists. I don't know if you're hearing that static or it's just me, but suddenly there's like the NSA has tapped into our conversation.
No, it's actually coming in clear to me. Is anyone here? Let me go to the chat, see if people are. Is anyone hearing static?
Is anybody else hearing that, or is it just?
No, some people are. Yeah, some people are.
Microphone. Okay.
I don't know why I'm not. That's weird that I'm not.
Let me blow on my mic for a second.
I am not hearing it. Okay, the audience does hear it. Okay.
And even when I muted my mic, I still heard it. That's bizarre.
Really? And I'm not hearing anything. It's coming in totally clear to me. That's bizarre.
Is the audience still
on my end?
Did they hear it when I muted my mic? That's
yeah, no, they still hear it. I wonder, maybe it's on my end. I don't know why it would be, but here, talk.
It is. It's I mean, when you muted your mic, it went away.
Really? Okay. So I have a problem on my end. Interesting. All right.
Is it dust in your microphone? Because that's what I thought it was on my end, which
I mean, I guess it could be. I have this like Kyotica eyeball that is supposed to prevent that from happening. Right. Yeah, I don't know. Here, let me yeah, I don't hear it.
It's not particularly prominent. But it started when it started out. It was like a hurricane, but now it's more like a gentle breeze.
Interesting. And it's still going on?
Yeah, but it's really gotten very much in the background now. It's like really minor static. We've moved from the 1930s to the 1960s.
Here, let me do this. I'm going to mute myself real quick, and I'm just going to like do the old-fashioned unplug it, plug it back in, see what that does.
And blow on it. Let's see what happens. We are on Ron Placone's show on YouTube. Get Your News On with Ron. When I first saw him, actually when he first had me on his show, that's when I started broadcasting on the platform he uses for these broadcasts, StreamYard, as well.
That's usually not a problem, but today, is it still there?
What happened? Oh no, now you're back. You just came back.
The
static is pretty much gone.
Pretty much gone?
No, there's a little bit of it.
It's still there. Okay.
Little here and there.
Okay, I don't know what that is. That's
But it's definitely we can definitely hear each other speaking. Everybody else can hear us too, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, depending on how distracted they are by these things.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. That's really weird. I
blame the NSA.
Yeah?
I think the NSA knows how to tap StreamYard conversations as well as phones. But then again, it's public, so they wouldn't necessarily need to tap it, would they? They could just tune in.
Okay, it's back. All right. Well, I
It's
don't know
it's
how
pretty
to.
minor,
Yeah, I don't
but
know
it
if we
is,
should.
of course, distracting.
Yeah. All right. Well, first of all, I'm very sorry about this. I don't know what, I mean, I check everything and everything seemed to be fine. And for some reason, I'm not hearing it at all.
That's the really weird part. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's totally coming in. Yeah, it's totally coming in clear to me. I'm not hearing anything in my headphones. I'm not hearing anything at all. Um,
well, as somebody who started hosting StreamYard broadcasts because of you, I'm glad this happened to you before it happened to me.
yeah. Here, all right, let me try something else here. All right, and then if not, we'll just yeah, I guess we'll just kind of yeah,
I mean,
we'll take it
folks
from
aren't
there. Let me try
folks aren't
something
saying they
else.
can't hear anything, right? It's really much
They can
less.
hear, but it's yeah, I mean it's pretty distracting. That
Mm,
seems to be the verdict
that's
here.
the
So let's see what
consensus.
I can do here. All right, I'm gonna mute myself again. You can talk about how awesome this show is while I'm
Yeah,
muted.
that's what I was doing before. And this is live streaming, of course. And if with live events like live radio, live anything, then this happens. And actually, even it happens to BBC World News and stuff. It happens to Democracy Now! So often that I wonder if there's an FBI agent working as one of Amy Goodman's producers. I, I have no idea if that might be the case, but if it were later discovered that one of her producers was an FBI agent, I don't know which one, but I wouldn't be surprised because the technical problems they have are just incredible. But not really recently though. It was like a spate of like 2 years where it's like every day was some kind of massive technical problem. Well, there's that static again, huh?
Oh, it's still there. Oh,
It's back
Jesus.
again. Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's
I
still
wonder.
there. All right.
Very mysterious. I wonder.
Well,
I have a. Oh, now it's gone. I mean,
it's
it's like
gone.
virtually gone. It comes
Virtually
and
gone.
goes. It's just no. It's like really really quiet, and it just comes and goes. When you mute your microphone, then you hear this like silence, like you're in a in a room with nobody, and as it is, it just sounds like a space kind of sound. A little bit.
Interesting. Okay. And yeah, I'm hearing none of it. Here, let me see if I. Yeah, I still
But
can't
when
really hear it.
are you rustling papers or something? Because that's what it
No,
kind of sounds like. Okay, no,
no, I'm not. I mean, I'm not.
no.
I don't have. That's what it sounds like. That's
That's what it did. It did for a
what it
moment.
sounded like.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
Maybe we have a secret guest, another guest somewhere out there who can like click the link and they're invisible and they're rustling papers. No, it
yeah,
just doesn't sound like rustling papers.
does it sound like anything? Is it gone?
It just went away and then it comes back. It's like
Okay.
no, it just sounds like the kind of stuff that happens in a recording studio with a microphone. I mean, like every time I go to the studio, including when I recorded this album last weekend. I mean, we spent the first 2 hours trying to figure out what was causing the static noises we were hearing and how to get rid of it. I mean, and this happens in this nice, fancy recording studio pretty much every time I'm there. There's always at least a couple hours spent trying to find what is causing the static, which cord we need to get rid of, which
Yeah.
which little device we need to blow air into, and yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But it's still happening. And it's so weird that I can't hear it. Like it's very. I have my headphones on. I don't know. Whenever there's been issues in the past, I've always heard it, but
Right,
I don't hear anything. So
that's
which
distressing evidence of possible. It's Russian involvement. I blame the Russians. Could be the Iranians.
yeah. Who knows? Who knows? All right. So. Well, why don't we do this? Because I mean, we can't. Yeah, I don't really know how to fix this in real time. But I don't want to.
I mean, you can if you mute your mic when I'm talking, nobody will hear any static.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Why don't you? How about we just kind of skip right to the album and you just kind of tell people what the album is all about? Because first of all, I love this album. Everything I've listened to so far, Say Their Names. And if you listen to this album and you don't have, and your eyes are dry as you listen to it, you might want to check your pulse. You might want to check your pulse. I mean, I think almost every track I was getting a little loosey goosey in the eyes, getting a little watery in the eyes for pretty much every track I've listened to. It's a very powerful album. So why don't you take it away and give people the lowdown with it?
Well, it's basically a collection of 13 of the songs that I've written over the past few months, mostly about what's been going on in Portland and more broadly in the world. But yeah, that pretty much, there might be one or two songs about historical events in there, but it's pretty much all songs about what's been happening over the past few months. I mean, including, well, I did write a few songs that were on my last album before that, since the killing of George Floyd, but this is the first album that's entirely made up of songs that have been happening, since the killing of George Floyd and since the uprising, and that's, mostly what they are related to, specifically events in Portland, like, Trump calling Portland an anarchist jurisdiction, and the so-called progressive mayor of Portland being a massive fan of excessive police brutality and tear gas use, and Portland being the most rent burdened city in the country. I mean, it's and of course the the place that gets all the attention. It's not that there haven't been protests going on in lots of other cities on a daily basis since the end of May, but Portland certainly has gotten the attention for whatever particular reason. I mean, that seems like it's convenient for Fox and for Trump, because there's the number of vegans per capita or something make Portland look stupider in their eyes or something. I don't know what they exactly why they choose Portland as opposed to Oakland or Minneapolis or any number of cities that have ongoing constant protests since the end of May. Seattle, New York, but Portland. They like Portland. They like picking on Portland. I don't know exactly what explains it.
So, will you play a song for us?
I would happily play a song for you. But I'll play one of the songs I wrote since recording the album, because anybody who wants to hear the album can just hear the album. It's on Bandcamp for free. But this is October 12th. This is Indigenous Peoples Day. It's known in some places as Columbus Day. And it's 170 years this month that their laws were passed that predate the Homestead Act of 1862. There were a bunch of different things that predate that massive act law that changed so much of the west of this country. And but the Land Claims Act, I think it was called, that prior to Oregon becoming a state was passed, that basically gave away the state to anybody who was white enough to take it. When this fertile valley was stolen, was a process assisted by an epidemic that wiped off the earth most any who might have resisted. The land was parceled and given away to any brave pioneer who was white enough to own property around here. When this fertile valley was stolen, it sealed so many a fate who'd no longer live by a trading post, but in a stratified settler state, with a white landed gentry created by colonial decree. We're not talking about the Bible, but a few generations of history. This fertile valley was stolen. It was easy to foresee that so many, many years later, there'd still be a white majority. It was engineered from the day the exclusion laws were made. Any pretense of inclusion since has been a sick charade. This fertile valley was stolen. The pioneers were given their farms, which were defended from the displaced by force of arms. And by dint of reason, as false as any that could be, enforced by laws and customs called white supremacy. When this fertile valley was stolen, a process was set forth to make another bastion of capitalism to the west and north. A freshly conquered California, Arizona, and the rest of the disease and theft and slaughter when the pioneers went west. When this fertile valley was stolen.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
That was awesome and very appropriate. Is the static still there, by the way?
Now it's gone.
Oh, it's gone?
I don't hear anything.
No
of course,
shit.
it might come back any second now, but at the moment, it is gone.
Wow.
I mean, it is there. No, I mean, gone. Maybe it's like at 2%. It's really
okay.
much.
So it's still
there,
there,
but it's really quiet. Yeah.
All
It's
right.
like a gentle wind.
It's like a sea breeze at this point.
Sea breeze. Yeah,
I appreciate you being a sport through all this and rolling with me through this. This is a first. We have had everything thrown in our path as far as this show is concerned. There have been shows where YouTube would just randomly change settings. There have been shows where the show wasn't even public and I didn't know it. There have been shows where the chat has randomly been disabled and I didn't know it. And
that's
now
what's been happening with me lately. The chat, I can't see the chat, and I've been trying to work out why it's happening and getting on help with StreamYard and stuff, and I don't know what's going on. But
yeah, I mean, there's been
something.
every tech issue and then some with this show. I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm insane for continuing to do it, but but you know, what are you gonna do? And this is another one. I mean, I guess now there's a mic issue and I have to fix this. And but we are here. Can I make a little request?
Of course.
Oh, dude. All right. So a song
It
that
really does sound fine too, by the way. I mean,
it does?
I think I would say just proceed. You know, really, it's a very low level static. I don't know why it's so much less than it was, but who knows?
It's weird. Maybe it's slowly just exiting.
Maybe just the mic needed to be worked a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll take it apart and put it back together and see where we're at. Not like literally take the mic apart, but you know, like I'll take the Chaotica eyeball off and then kind of. Yeah, maybe it just needs a little bit of a dusting. I mean, my cat does jump around up on the desk and stuff, so maybe that has something to do with it. But
I don't actually own one, but I hear that those little things that blow air, you know, that little things that, you know, people in electronics or camera stores, they have those little rubber things you squeeze and it blows air. And those, I think that can solve, like, you know, half of the problems that people have with their computers can be solved by restarting the computer. And I think half of your problems with electronic devices can be solved by blowing air in them. But that's, you know, maybe just that's the only things I know what to do. So when I have a problem, if that either fixes it or I take it somewhere. But
you're the original Nintendo school of fixing. Like blow air into it. Blow air. Do you remember?
Restart, give up. Yeah. I don't know. I remember doing that with because those devices would always overheat. Those old,
Well, I still want to make my request. Every day, and I kid you not, one of the songs I listen to. There's a couple songs I'm listening to daily at this point to really just help me keep going or give me like the motivation to just be like, yeah, we're still in this fight. One of those is your song, Landlord. So is there any way you'd be willing to play Landlord for us?
Oh, sure. What
Yes.
the heck? Yeah, I'll just find it here because it's too wordy. I don't remember. But
such a cool guitar lick.
Oh, thank
one
you.
of my favorite like just like aggressive folk guitar licks. Such a powerful song. One of my favorite songs by you. Maybe if I had to pick just one, I might have to say it's my favorite song by you. And yeah, I listen to that song every day.
That is I'm so glad to hear that it has that potential therapeutic application.
It does. And for anyone who's not familiar with it, you're going to think, yeah, this song's really pertinent to the contemporary moment we're living in right now.
And it really is, because in terms of like the kind of stuff that we're doing in terms of organizing around the rent strike and eviction defense, I mean, so much of the organizing that's going on, you were mentioning the organizing around that, and so much of it is not necessarily actions to deal with specifically what's happening now, but it's more about building forces for when the tsunami of evictions comes, and then being able to respond quickly in the form of eviction defense squads, rapid response squads, because we can't be like camping out in front of every building that's where people are facing eviction, but we can apply the same principles that they used in upstate New York in the 1850s, the same basic strategies, and that can be applied here, except we don't need to blow on horns. We can send text messages, but and other forms of getting the word out. There's other things that work better than actual bullhorns, but in the modern age, probably. Patroons came from Holland to America, became landlords where none had been before. Soon one man owned 500,000 acres on both sides of the Hudson River shore. He invited families to move in and give him 30% of everything they grew every year. This is how they'd pay the rent. His name was Van Rensselaer. He became one of the richest men on earth. In today's terms, $90 billion is how much he'd be worth. All this for doing nothing but saying all of this was his. I have the power of the state behind me, and I'm in the landlord biz. After 200 years of this and one revolution won, another Van Rensselaer had another son, and this Rensselaer was greedier than his ancestors dead and past. It was now the 1840s, and things were changing fast. It was the straw that broke the back. The bottle was uncorked. They started organizing meetings, the tenant farmers of New York. They found the strength of numbers. They found the power of suggestion. They found each other asking the same question. Who gave you the right to be a landlord? To live a life of ease while others toil? Who gave you the right to be a rich man while the rest of us pay you so we can work this soil? They vowed they would stop this rent collection. They vowed they'd bring this madness to an end. And when one blew the tin horn of distress, they soon found they'd have 1,000 friends, dressed in calico skirts, with masks upon their faces, on horseback, armed with knives and guns. They chanted and they yelled, they kept their farms, and they kept the sheriffs on the run. They asked, who gave you the right to be a landlord? To live a life of ease while others toil? Who gave you the right to be a rich man, while the rest of us pay you so we can work this soil? The governor's militias tried to stop them, but nothing could be done to break their will. And by 1848 the landlords buckled, sold their holdings to the farmers in the hills. Yes, they overthrew this feudal system, but it's replaced now by speculators and banks. And you can still hear the homeless families asking of all the landed gentry in our ranks, who gave you the right to be a landlord, to live a life of ease while others toil? Who gave you the right to be a rich man, while the rest of us pay you so we can work this soil? Who gave you the right to be a landlord, to live a life of ease while others toil? Who gave you the right to be a rich man, while the rest of us pay you so we can work this soil? Who gave you the right?
Dude, yes! Yeah! I love that song. I listen to that song every day, including today.
Excellent.
Clearly. Is it still there? Is the thing still there?
Static? Oh, so quiet. I had to listen for a moment to see if it was still there. It's very quiet.
I can't hear it. Everything sounds normal to me. This is the weirdest. I'm glad that if this had to happen, which I feel like every single issue known to man has to happen to this show. And I don't have an executive producer. I'm just a one-man shop. So I'm just, I just roll with it. But if this had to happen, I'm glad at least you're the guest if this had to happen, because at least I could be like, well, do you want to play music for us to still make this a show?
And so I'm also used to being my own producer for shows with technical issues, so it's very familiar. Very familiar.
Well, that being said, I got 5 more requests. I was making a list. No, I'm just kidding.
No problem.
I'd be down for it, but I don't want to make you.
I'm happy to do it. Happy to sing or talk. Absolutely.
Great,
no
great. Well, let's talk a little bit about the new record, and then, of course, you're welcome to play a few more songs to kind of make lemonade out of lemons here with my weird static that I can't hear that's plaguing our show today. In your music and this particular album, it's a history lesson through music. And this album in particular, you talk so much. Elijah McClain is talked about on this album. Say their names. You mentioned Howard Zinn. And, it's interesting. I was talking earlier this summer. I had lunch with Howard Zinn's son. I was in the town that he lives in. I reached out and he knew who I was. So we met up and we had lunch. And I didn't want to make the entire conversation about his father, but I did, obviously I wanted to ask a couple questions, and he was gracious about it. He let me ask. And I said, what was your dad's biggest butting of heads in his professional life? And he told me that so often his dad just had a butting of the heads over the basic notion of what is history. And as discouraging as it is to come to terms with, even in a place like academia, there's this notion that history is only written by the winners and only written by the powerful. And Howard Zinn was one of the people who decided that wasn't acceptable, and history belongs to everybody.
Yeah, and he's actually, it's been really quite something with how his work has, along with other historians, has become, in particular, his work has become sort of not exactly mainstream, but certainly, his A People's History of the United States sold more than 1 million copies. It took a long time to sell more than 1 million copies, but it is used in a lot of schools around the country, but it's not used in a lot of other schools. And of course, Donald Trump had his American History Conference at the White House Conference on American History, where he had as the main featured guest was somebody, I don't remember the person's name, but apparently they travel around the country basically dissing Howard Zinn and criticizing any efforts at teaching about history in ways that acknowledge and really delve into things like slavery, genocide, land theft, real estate speculation, robber barons, the extreme divisions of rich and poor, the militant labor movement, police massacring workers on a regular routine basis, all these kinds of things that are clearly part of such a big part of history, and why anything ever happens in terms of the development of history, which is a history of the conflict between the haves and the have-nots. If you're going to, put it in one easy summed up sentence, I mean, that's what history is, basically. That's what makes history. That's what makes history happen over the course of the past few thousand years, for sure. But you talk about that, and then you're a subversive, and of course, if you use, and Howard Zinn is the chief subversive among sort of history teachers in the past, in my lifetime, because he's very, very great writer, and he wrote for whatever combination of reasons, greatness and whatever else, he wrote the book that really stuck and really became the book. I mean, there are other fantastic histories of the country that are, that are, I would say, in many ways just as good. But he wrote the book that really stuck, and he's been the sort of the brunt of the criticism against teaching more reality-based and less jingoistic, patriotic versions of history. And then, actually probably half the songs on the album, it's just written after Trump gave a speech or held a conference. That song was written after he held his American History Conference. And then either a few days before that or a few days after that is when he when Attorney General Barr officially classified Portland, Seattle, and New York City as anarchist jurisdictions, and that's when I wrote the song Anarchist Jurisdiction. So the songs do not appear in chronological order on the album. It's more sort of musical order that worked well musically. But
do you have hope for the future? And if so, where do you get it from? I mean, you have children, you have a lot of reasons to, really want to keep going and trying to win this thing. So where do you kind of get your hope from, if you have any?
I think, I do. I mean, I completely sympathize and understand, where people are coming from who don't have hope, and I have to say I respect their positions, but including some very prominent, intelligent people, but I do have hope, and it's not necessarily hope that we can fix all the problems, but hope that that social movements can accomplish great things and can fix a lot of problems, and that in the course of social movements doing that, they can also inadvertently sort of create an amazing community that takes care of a lot of other problems without that being the intent, because one of the problems is hopelessness and depression and anxiety, and being part of a social movement that is well organized and big and militant and inclusive it takes care of a lot of those problems, with those emotional and mental problems that are so common in society anytime, and especially now. So I think social movement there's a lot of things to be hopeful about in terms of social movements helping with a lot of those basic problems that people are having in terms of just day-to-day functioning. But also, a big part of our problem in this society with the pandemic and with institutional racism and with the extreme divisions in so many ways, I think it really comes down to, in so many ways, to capitalism. Or if it doesn't come down to capitalism, dealing with that problem will cause the other problems to become much easier to deal with and much less of a big deal. For example, whether or not white people can overcome their internal biases against people of color, or whether or not men can overcome their biases towards women, or any number of other very important problems in our societies around bias. If everybody has affordable housing, universal health care, universal basic income, then those the other problems become much, much more approachable, much easier to deal with. Like if we were talking about just the internal biases of the police, for example, that would be one thing. But we're talking about them enforcing the law, and the law that rich people must stay rich and poor people must get evicted, and that's the problem. It's not so much the problem that they have this internal bias; it's that they develop these internal biases because they're enforcing racist laws, and so which is a phenomenon of capitalism, the racist laws. I mean, this is a fundamental aspect of our capitalist system. There's no such thing as the fantasy of the free market capitalism that the anarcho-capitalists or whoever fantasize about in their theoretical dreams. The reality of capitalism is it's big wealthy people and corporations who bribe governments and bribe other entities to make them do what they want, and they call that democracy. And in part of how they carry out their system of bribery is through tactics of divide and conquer of the population, and the apartheid in the United States, and prior to that, slavery, and also the system of settlement involving white supremacy, being your land title being your white skin, etc. I mean, this is all built into our version of the capitalism system, but it's also not unique to the United States. Capitalism, wherever you find it, engages in these kinds of in this kind of corruption, this kind of divide and conquer, in this kind of buying of governments in order to get them to do their bidding, and then blaming them for all the problems in society when everything goes as planned. But yeah, I don't know where that was going, but there's.
I'm with you though. I'm totally with you. Is the static still there? I take it it's still there.
No, actually, is it? Now
is it gone completely?
I think the warmer your mic gets, the less the static. I don't know.
Really?
But now it's no, it's
I'm
not
checking the
completely
chats.
gone.
It's not okay. Yeah,
I mean, I hear what sounds more like just that you're in a room. That I'm not alone anymore when you turn your mic on. So it's hard to say, but it's
okay.
I'm not sure I'd even call this static at this point. It's something like. Yeah, maybe. Very, very quiet status.
Yeah, okay. Fun times. It's just our third guest today, really. It's funny. As soon as I unmute my mic, the the numbers go down on the show. But the cool thing is the people that are sticking this out, they know that they're getting rewards because the way we're navigating through the tech issues today is that you're doing these awesome songs. Do you want to play one more for us?
Oh, sure.
Dealer's choice, whatever you want to play. I mean, I if you want some requests, I could throw plenty at you, but it's I'll let you choose.
Well, I'm happy to take requests, but I could do. Let's see. I could do something I just wrote or something.
Do you want to do something off the album, or do you just want to push people to it?
I could do something off the album, and maybe how about I'll do this one. There's because last night, today, as we mentioned, is Indigenous Peoples Day, and last night there was an Indigenous-led march in town. That in Portland that involved chains and the toppling of one statue of Abraham Lincoln and one statue of Theodore Roosevelt, and just for those out there that might need any reminder of why Indigenous people would want to topple a statue of Abraham Lincoln. Among his other accomplishments, Abraham Lincoln ordered the biggest mass execution in U.S. history of 38 Dakota, Mendota Indians in Minnesota. of course, he's remembered for other things. Theodore Roosevelt requires a bit less explanation for anybody familiar with the history of manifest destiny. But in Australia, the history is so similar, and a friend of mine there recently. It's kind of almost hard to believe, but this is when we're talking about a sort of a middle-aged white guy who I can't say he looks too respectable. He looks like kind of disheveled hippie, but he gets arrested constantly for nothing more than using craft glue, Elmer's glue. It dissolves in water, right? To stick a piece of paper to a statue in Sydney, Australia, which merely quotes the person who the statue is of, who was the first governor of New South Wales, a guy named Lachlan Macquarie. Lachlan Macquarie was a Scotsman who signed up to serve the British Crown. He traveled around the world to America. Not long after that, he headed down to his post in New South Wales to be the governor, to expand colonial rule. Half of Sydney was named after him. Everybody learns his name in school. Just don't put Macquarie's words beneath his statue. If you do, his defenders might arrest you. Lachlan Macquarie was a governor who opened schools and hospitals. His aim was to civilize a nation in the interests of himself and capital. He was a raging alcoholic and a bad businessman, but you could say he did his best to broaden the global dominion of a project they call the Christian West. Just don't put Macquarie's words beneath his statue. If you do, his defenders might arrest you. Lachlan Macquarie stole children from their parents and never gave them back. And when Gundagara and Darawal people resisted, he ordered his soldiers to attack. He said, "Make the Aborigines your prisoners. Shoot them and hang them from the trees, so as to strike fear in the surviving natives in order to bring them to their knees." Yes, don't put Macquarie's words beneath his statue. If you do, his defenders might arrest you. Lachlan Macquarie was a Scotsman who signed up to serve the British Crown. He traveled around the world to America. Not long after that, he headed down to his post in New South Wales to be the governor, to expand colonial rule. Half of Sydney was named after him. Everybody learns his name in school.
That was awesome. That was awesome. Hey, everybody, it's Static Magoo here with my guest, David Rovics. And that's awesome. Again, just like, and it is Indigenous Peoples Day. It's funny. I'm an Italian American, and I always tweet about, Christopher Columbus on this day, and how awful Christopher Columbus was, and how happy I am that in a lot of parts of the country it's not Columbus Day anymore, and how great it is. And I inevitably get someone that's always like, "Oh, Placone's your last name. You must be a self-hating." And I'm like, why do you? would you do that to like any? Do you go up to German Americans and be like, "Hey, are you a fan of Hitler?" No, I'm not. Oh, you hate yourself then? Like it's like that makes zero sense. It makes no sense. And first of all, he might not have even been Italian, by the way. Just for they're not really sure what his origin actually was. They don't actually know. Like they think it was Genoa. Yeah, they don't know for sure. Like it was likely Genoa, but they don't even know that for sure. And so, yeah.
Anyway. I know it was the Spanish crown that commissioned him to go. Yes. In any case, for sure.
We know that, but they think like his origin could have been Portuguese. Like they don't know 100% for certain. So it's just funny. I mean, I just bring that up because I woke up to one of those tweets today where someone was like, "You're a self-hating Italian American," and I'm like, that makes no sense. What you just said, none whatsoever. But
another really fascinating little twist on that bit of history of when Columbus, or Colombo as his actual name was, when he set forth and was traveling across the Mediterranean to head towards the Americas, he actually had to take uncommonly used routes to get across the Mediterranean, because all the normal routes for the boats were clogged with Ottoman Navy ships full of Spanish Jews that they were rescuing.
So, first of all, now let me get to a couple super chats here, and let's do this first. Melissa says, "David, still want you to come to Bristol, Vermont someday." Have you ever?
I'd love to come to Bristol.
Yeah,
Vermont. I've never been to Bristol. I don't remember if I have. I know Bristol, England. I'm not sure if I've been to Bristol, Vermont. But sometimes these towns are like really, really small. Because I mean,
was it England or Vermont? I can't remember.
If it's Vermont, then I mean, there's only like really 3 sort of towns that can pass as cities, or that they usually call cities in Vermont, and Bristol's definitely not one of them. But I'd love to go to Bristol.
So, and Melissa owns a book and music shop, I'm pretty sure. Red Pill also says, "Music Monday love, peace and love from Antifa. Rock on." Thank you so much for that, Red Pill. And Jonas, here's a great compliment, and then we're gonna get to you're gonna tell everyone where they can find the album. Jonas says, "Are you just that good at picking guests, or do you happen to know so many awesome people?"
Oh, I love those kinds of comments.
I do too. Thank you so much, Jonas. I appreciate that very much. And yeah, I'm a very lucky guy that really cool people are willing to do this show, and I try to mix it up. I like to have everything from activists to musicians to authors to folks, grassroots candidates running for office, to fellow comedians. I try to mix it up. It keeps it fun for me. And yeah, again, if I'm going to have goofy audio issues today, which some people are, can you hear it?
It's
yeah,
gone.
some people are saying it's gone.
Gone. Yeah.
Yeah. We fought through it. We fought through it. So sorry about that today, but David was the best guest to have in a situation like this, because I could just be like, you know what? Take it away and play your amazing music, because some people might not know how good this music is. They might not know your music. So now they do. So, man, I will be so bold as to make a second request. Is there any way, first of all, tell everyone where they can find the album and plug all your stuff.
Oh, yeah. I created a page for the album even. So davidrovics.com/saytheirnames. And then there's extra material in addition to the album, like songs related to the album that aren't on the album because they were from before. Songs related to other names of other people.
So go to davidrovics.bandcamp.com and you can look up the album directly, Say Their Names. It's an amazing album. I highly recommend checking it out. And I'll tell you this can be the Get Your News On with Ron challenge. If you listen to that album and you don't cry at any point, like nothing makes you cry, and you listen to that, and I mean this in a good way, because that's how powerful the songs are. If you listen to that album and you don't cry, email me and I will mail you a free pulse, because that's what you need, apparently. I will mail you a freaking heart, because you must be the Tin Man from Oz, where you need a heart if you listen to that album and you don't cry, because it's that powerful of an album. So please go check it out. davidrovics.bandcamp.com is, again, where you can go to find the album. The album is Say Their Names. David, is there something you want to send us off with? And
since one of the folks who commented is named Red Pill, I have a song for that person.
Nice. And can I make a small request?
Yeah.
Is there any way after that you'd be willing to send us off with St. Patrick's Battalion?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes. Oh.
Actually, they're in the same key, so this could be like a medley, but it's
Oh.
kind of weird medley.
Little did I know. All right, so I think the lesson to be learned here, everybody watching, if you're tuning into a show and there's tech issues, stick around because you might be rewarded. Stick around because it might freaking work out. It might just work out.
That's good advice for sure.
It's the lesson I learned today. I was like, what should we do? And I'm like, we can figure this out.
Yeah, it was only bad for the first minute or two. It made for some great conversation, I think.
Well, I got you to play a bunch more songs. I mean, I was like off mic, I was like, oh, maybe you'll play one or two if you're up for it. Now it's just like, dude, do a show.
Hell yeah.
You haven't been able to tour all year. I've been able to tour all year. We all miss this.
Exactly, right? I mean, this is the closest it gets to actually performing, conversations with one person on the internet where you can imagine that there's an audience out there. Of course, as the host, you might be looking at a number. My StreamYard account stopped showing me the number, too. I know they're watching, but I can't see until afterwards.
When you've been playing, I've actually just been rocking out and singing along. I'm on mute while I sing along. I am actually singing along, but I put myself on mute out of consideration for everybody else, quite frankly. But
feel free to sing along, although there might be like a 2-second delay. It's
right.
Not
well, of course. That's why.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally. But so I probably just look like a big geek, but, whatever. I don't care. I'm having a good time.
Well, we're now going to do try a medley of moving from the Matrix to St. Patrick Battalion. They are both in the same key and both in waltz time, so it just somehow is going to work, I think.
Perfect.
Maybe a little too well. Maybe they're almost the same song. That could be the problem. But everybody will realize. So he only has like 3 different types of songs he writes, and this is like type 3. Here in the Matrix, we're trained our whole lives to obey. Get up when the alarm goes off in the morning and go to work each day. You can eat 3 meals. You just might have to trade in your free will. You don't have to be captured by aliens for reality to be such a bitter pill. Here in the Matrix, the men in the ivory towers say we can remake the world around us if we put in the hours, if we work hard and play by the rules. It may not be true, but still, the fantasy is nicer when reality is such a bitter pill. Here in the Matrix, people argue about TV. Sometimes they complain about not enough diversity among the talking heads provided by the people mill while we're hooked up to their machines, where reality is such a bitter pill. Here in the Matrix, people talk about being aware. They'll critique you for dropping some litter or for not washing your hair. And if you talk of launching a revolution, they'll say that you should be killed. You gotta work within the system, they'll say. Yes, reality is such a bitter pill. Here in the Matrix, they say the problems that exist can all be solved by means provided if we politely persist. Work in your offices, vote in your booths for the men on the hill. Just ignore your nightmares about those creatures, because reality is such a bitter pill. My name is John Riley. I'll have your ear only a while. I left my dear home in Ireland, was death, starvation, or exile. When I got to America, it was my duty to go. Enter the army and slog across Texas to join in the war against Mexico. And it was there in the pueblos and hillsides that I saw the mistake I had made. Part of a conquering army with the morals of a bayonet blade. There amidst all these poor dying Catholics, screaming children, the burning stench of it all, myself and 200 Irishmen decided to rise to the call. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. Fought them, we marched neath the green flag of St. Patrick, emblazoned with Erin Goldbra. Right with the harp and the shamrock and Libertad para la República. Just 50 years after Wolfe Tone, 5,000 miles away, the Yanks called us a legion of strangers, and they can talk as they may. But from Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We fought them in 5 major battles. Churubusco was the last. Overwhelmed by the cannons from Boston, we fell after each mortar blast. Most of us died on that hillside in the service of the Mexican state. So far from our occupied homeland, we were heroes and victims of fate. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. From Dublin City to San Diego, we witnessed freedom denied. So we formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side. We formed the St. Patrick Battalion and we fought on the Mexican side.
It's amazing. That was amazing. Doesn't get much. I love that song. One of my favorite songs. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Everybody check it out. davidrovics.bandcamp.com. David, thanks so much for doing the show today. Thank you so much for bearing through the tech issues. I'm so glad we made lemonade out of lemons there. I hope you'll come back again, and we'll have a more regular conversation when I'm not worried about the status of my mic. But of course, you will be welcome to play as many songs as you want.
And I'll just note to your viewers that I will be having you in as a guest on my show, Discussions with David, next month on my YouTube channel, which was entirely inspired by your show. And I just don't know why I thought if Ron could do it, I can too. But
that's what I like. That's what I want. That's what I want. And some people are saying they got some watery eyes right now. Me too. Me too.
Oh,
the type of songs, you're right, man. It's powerful stuff.
Wonderful.
It's wonderful stuff. So yeah, I'll be on your show on November 6th. I think is the date that I'm going to be on your show.
Now you have a good memory. I have to look at my calendar, but that's which is actually right here on my computer, fancily enough. Although it's such a slow computer. Where was it? Yeah, that's right. November 6th, 10 a.m.
Awesome.
Pacific. Yeah.
That'll be after the election too, so I'm sure we'll have
to talk about.
We'll have a lot to talk about. And in the meantime, folks, again, davidrovics.bandcamp.com. You can look up the album, say their names. It's phenomenal. You're going to love it. Look up that album, pick it up. And yeah, in the meantime, we'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to figure out the mic situation in the meantime. So 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Check out David's stuff, davidrovics.bandcamp.com. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy says meow. I say peace. Peace.